Hey everybody, I'm Kris Wook. You ask, we answer. It's Android Authority Q&A for September 4th, 2013. Our first question this week comes from R, who asks, when will the LG G2 come to Sprint? It looks like the G2 should be coming to Verizon and AT&T around the middle of this month. There's no official word on when it'll come to Sprint, but I'm thinking it'll be sooner rather than later. Anna Sarah asks, if I benchmark my phone with Antutu and get a result, can this result get higher or lower over time? Does it change? Yes, Antutu scores change like crazy, which is why when I review a device, I actually run it 10 times in different situations and then come up with the average. It can also change from a firmware update or software upgrade. For example, with the Nexus 4, we noticed that Antutu scores were higher on the Nexus 4 running 4.3 than they were on 4.2. Dolev says, hey Kris, I'm getting a Nexus 7 HD and Nexus 4 after your recommendation a few days ago for an Android phone for $250. Would you use the stock Google ROM or would you recommend replacing it with CyanogenMod or Paranoid Android? Since you're already running stock Android, I personally wouldn't recommend switching to a different ROM. For one, you can always customize your phone using different launchers, and since they're both Nexus devices, you'll be getting updates as soon as they're ready. The only time I would really recommend changing to a different ROM is if it has a feature that you just can't get otherwise. Thomas and Amkar had similar questions asking, will the Moto X be coming to the UK and when will the Moto X be released internationally? So far there's no official word on the Moto X outside of the Americas, specifically in the UK. If you go to Motorola's UK website, there's a message that says we're working on something new, so it doesn't seem too likely that it would be the Moto X. Anshul asks, what according to you is the ideal screen size of a smartphone? Obviously this is just opinion, and not that long ago I probably would have said something smaller, but with bezels shrinking, I would say around 4.5 to 5 inches is the sweet spot. It's big enough that you can watch movies comfortably, but at the same time you can actually fit the phone into your pocket. Alex asks, hey Kris, what are your thoughts on AMD and Intel mobile processors? Do you think they'll be working with Samsung, HTC, and other companies? I think Intel especially is going to start doing this more and more. They're already working with a few companies, and as their chipsets prove themselves, I think we'll start to see them in more and more phones. AMD, on the other hand, has basically said, yeah, we might do this if somebody asks us, as they seem to be focusing more on Windows 8, which might not be the best tactic given their current market performance. Shadab asks, hey Kris, what are your thoughts about the upcoming Sony Xperia Z1 Honami? With its massive rumored specs, is it going to beat phones like the Note 3 and the LG G2? Well, you're right, it certainly does look like a beast of a phone. Will it beat the G2? Maybe. Will it beat the Note 3? At least in terms of sales, probably not. Sony just doesn't have the buzz around it that Samsung does right now. Now, if we're talking performance and usability, well, we're just going to have to wait until we review it. And that about wraps it up for this week, folks. As usual, a written companion to this video can be found at AndroidAuthority.com. Now remember, this show is powered by your questions, so keep them coming. You can find the link to ask us questions of your very own in the description down below. Make sure to stay tuned to Android Authority for more news, reviews, tips, tricks, Q&A, giveaways, and more. I'm Kris Wook, and as always, thank you for watching.